Oh, it's you. Hello, YouTube. This is Gava Guy. I was in a hangout last night that was hosted by Jonny KZJ. The hangout title was Muslims Continue to Deceive Westerners, and you can find the link in the description box below. I just had a couple of thoughts about this hangout. I joined because I dislike the ambiguity and kind of bunching together of people who adhere to the Muslim faith and the Muslim faith and text, the Quran itself. For example, or what I'm trying to say is I think that there needs to be a distinction made between Muslims and Islam. And and so that was why I joined Jonny KZJ's chat and group, because there was kind of a conflation between the two, and I think it's important to make that distinction. During the hangout, another reason that I joined that hangout was because I also think that it's somewhat ironic and disingenuous for Christians to be critical of Muslims and Islam in general, for the fact that there's a history of Christians, people who hold to or held to the Christian faith and did so devoutly, who carried out acts that were just as bad as what Muslims are doing today. And there are even Christians in some corners of the world today who continue to carry out horrific, violent acts. In particular, in Africa right now, there are Christians who have very recently carried out attacks on Muslims. They have pursued and killed witches or people that they think are witches, homosexuals, and and they have very violently attacked and killed and butchered, in some cases, these people. So to throw Muslims as a group into the same category as the Muslim extremists, the same error that many atheists make, throwing all Christians into the same category as Christian extremists, and and I think that that's a mistake. And when I hear atheists make that mistake, will do my best to say, hey, Christians don't necessarily do that, or and that you need to be specific. There are certain Christians or certain Christian groups that carry out violent acts or have done violent things. There are certain Christian groups who behave in certain ways, and other Christians and groups of Christians who behave differently. Now, I will say that I believe that the Quran is a terrible book and has much that is very bad morally contained in it. I think that there is also very much that is bad contained in the Bible, and and so I expressed that in the hangout. When I was asked to give examples of problems that I saw in the Bible, I pointed primarily to the Old Testament. And when it was and people said, well, that's the Old Covenant, I pointed out that if those laws and actions were moral then they would be moral now, unless morality has changed. So that brings up a problem. But and I moved forward from there, and I said, let's have a look at the New Testament then. In particular, the Battle of Armageddon, which every Christian in the room conceded that it would be a literal conflict and a violent one, where there would be much bloodshed and violence. When I asked if their God called them to participate in and kill people, men, women, children, um, anyone, if they would obey that command. And they all conceded that yes, they would join in and participate in mass slaughter and violence, if they came to believe that it was the end times and the Battle of Armageddon, and they came to believe that their deity had asked them or commanded them to carry out violent acts of that kind. So there's no prohibition across the board like that for Christianity, as many Christians will pretend. And there is plenty contained in the Bible that Christians can use to, and have used historically, to give them a pass when it comes to violent acts. So in the course of the discussion, when we reached this point, Vekl blew up. And I encourage you to watch the video. I joined in somewhere along the 20-minute mark, I think. And I'm not sure exactly where that conversation went to, but you can watch the video. It's not terribly long. The whole hangout went about an hour and 40 minutes or so. But Vekl's objection was to say that I was being hypocritical myself, because if someone came and attacked my family and tried to rape my wife or my children, that I would use violence to defend my family. And yes, while it's true that I don't necessarily think that violence should be off the table altogether, period, I think that it should be used as a last resort. And I think that it should also be used only in defense. And it's hard to say that the Battle of Armageddon would qualify as a defensive battle. I don't know the particulars of it. And if Christians want to investigate this and show me how it is that the Battle of Armageddon will be a defensive battle, I'm all ears. Let's investigate this. Let's open up the text and see what it is. Another objection that was raised was, well, it doesn't say in the Bible that Christians will participate in this battle, living people who are around. Well, I don't know. I don't think that it does say affirmatively that that's the case, but I don't believe that it says that that won't be the case. And as I said earlier, if a command is given by the deity or by a person who Christians believe has divine authority, then they are compelled by their faith to act in kind. And this is no different than the Muslims, who believe that their deity has given the okay to carry out violent acts in the name of Islam and in the name of your God is Yahweh. And if you come to believe that your deity has commanded you to carry out violent acts, you are compelled to do so by your belief system. for me, I'm not going to go and assertively attack people. I'm willing to defend innocent people, but I will wait until I am attacked to do so. I won't preemptively attack other people because I think that that's immoral. And I think that Jonny KZJ brought up the United States going out and attacking people. And I think that there are moral problems with the way that the United States government has handled a lot of their foreign policy, going out and preemptively attacking countries, and carrying out military endeavors against people, where there's a great deal of quote unquote collateral damage, which is a politically correct way of saying innocent people are killed, people who have nothing to do with the violent attacks that have been carried out by some Muslim extremists. I mean, the comparison would be, if one or two Christian extremists in the United States, and there are Christian extremists in the United States, carried out a terrorist act or attempted to do so, and we sent in the military to their town and killed 600 people who had nothing to do with the attack, and just said, well, that's collateral damage. What are you going to do? I think that there's a huge moral problem with the way that we've done things, and I think that it's unnecessary, because these Muslim extremists who exist right now don't have state support. They might have coverage from the states, different states that are not pursuing them or assertively trying to stop their trainings and things like that. But I think we can do things defensively that bar them and prevent them and disallow them from actually successfully carrying out violent attacks here in the United States. And we can work in partnership with other countries to assist them in preventing the same kinds of violent attacks. There are other countries who've had violence carried out in their countries, and we don't see every single country that has had violence carried out in it marching into other nations and trying to destroy them. All this does is lead everyone to war, essentially. I mean, people do stupid things. Individuals do stupid things. They do immoral things, but that doesn't mean that we go to war with the entire country that person came from. And these really were kind of deflections and diversions from the actual point that I was making, which was never addressed by Vekl or really anyone else. Benji joined into the conversation and tried to go the presuppositionalist route. It was not successful, and then he eventually kind of crashed and burned and tried to revert back to the topic of Islam. I was criticized in the Hangout for not being critical of Islam. I am very critical of Islam, and I think that any kind of dogma, religious or otherwise, is a dangerous thing, and that we need to be willing to critically and objectively, or as objectively as we are able, to investigate our own beliefs and to question them, and do our best to discern whether or not they are true. So those are my thoughts. please do check out that video, and feel free to comment and drop in and respond to this video with other information too. I'll be happy to join other people in a conversation at some other time. I've got an appointment this morning, but just wanted to drop a few thoughts after reflecting a little bit more on the exchange from last night. So I'm not inviting anyone into this hangout, but I would be very interested in joining other hangouts later on, maybe this weekend or something. Have a good day and enjoy your weekend, everyone.